This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below.
Today was a day of some good news for the Browns and some bad news for the sports media landscape in general. But we'll start with the good news for the Browns. JOK and Wyatt Teller were promoted from alternates in the Pro Bowl to full-on Pro Bowl members. So now that means the Browns have 6 Pro Bowlers, and JOK is going to have that first Pro Bowl onto his name, which congratulations to JOK. This also means that Andrew Berry has officially drafted his first Pro Bowler in his time as a Cleveland Browns general manager. Now, if you remember, JOK was a second-round pick who fell in there. He was somebody that I love pre-draft, and I think at the end of this season, we started to see what JOK can be. Now, I look at JOK, and the person that I think of when I look at JOK is, ironically enough, another number 6 in the AFC North, Patrick Queen. They're very similar players, right? Both playmakers, both guys who get behind the line of scrimmage. They do it in slightly different ways. Pat Queen is more of an edge rusher than JOK is, and JOK is more of a stand-up playmaker than Pat Queen is. Like, JOK can actually play some Mike linebacker. Pat Queen, whenever he's asked to play Mike linebacker, it's usually a disaster. And I'm wondering what the plan is to build around JOK and the type of year that he's had, because I think this is similar to Grant Delpit, where we saw Grant Delpit get put in a role where he was empowered a little bit, and we saw him start to play well at the end of the 2022 season. And we thought to ourselves, hey, this might be something that carries over. We got to make sure it's not streaky. And we're going to have similar conversations with JOK. But I think JOK figured it out. I think the guy that we saw at the end of the season that was dominating is going to be the guy that we see for the most part next season when the Browns come back. And I think, I've already done a video about how JOK is going to be one of the most important parts to this Browns defense, because he might be what keeps defenses honest when it comes to playing against Myles Garrett. So that's going to be something that's interesting to watch. And again, congratulations to JOK for making the Pro Bowl. Wyatt Teller also made the Pro Bowl. This is his second one. Wyatt Teller, not a Browns pickup, not an Andrew Berry pickup, but he kind of blossomed under the hires that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski had in 2020, and this is his second Pro Bowl. He's made the All-Pro team twice. This is his third Pro Bowl. So he made it in 21, 22, and he'll make it again in 23. So congratulations to Wyatt Teller, who was having a shaky year at the beginning of the season, but really stuck it out and turned it into one of his best seasons since 2020. Not best, like better than 2020, but since 2020 for sure. So that is the good news for the Cleveland Browns. Now, I did mention some bad news I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to find a way to have this conversation, is that SI has reportedly laid off everybody, is my understanding of it. And I'm sorry for laughing. I think the rollout of the news is comical, not the news itself. The news is very tragic in itself. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of opportunities for people looking for jobs have just straight up went out the window. And even in other places, if you're looking for a job or you're looking for a change, your options just got a lot smaller. So to any aspiring sports writer, sports talk content producer, whatever it is that you are aspiring to be in this space, this is bad news, because this means less opportunities, less jobs, less stuff. And we all understand the impact immediately that that's going to have on the people in the industry. But for those of you not in the industry, I do think that the impact that it's going to have is a little bit more severe on that side. I did a video earlier this year talking about why I believe sports talk kind of stinks now. In part, if not the main reason I believe that sports talk kind of sucks now is stuff like this, right? The massive corporate consolidation of sports talk. There are less jobs, there are less people, there are less connections to harness all this information. So people just start saying stuff. And that stuff's not even usually well substantiated. And when stuff's not well substantiated and it's just out there, people talk about it and they try to get clicks and this and that. And it's just, we don't talk about sports to talk about sports anymore. We talk about sports to get people to watch a video about somebody talking about sports. And maybe that's been at the heart of it at all times, but I felt like the actual sports talk conversation of it mattered. And SI was not a perfect outlet at all. Like they had their flaws, bad articles, everything else like that, the SI curse, all that stuff. But SI was a place where they would try to talk about the sports part of it and not necessarily lead it down to these, what I don't know what to call them, but you know when you see them, like it's like, hey, we're not going to engage with a point that Cam Newton made. We're just going to bring up Cam Newton's stats and talk about how he's not a better quarterback than Dak, right? Like this whole section of sports talk where it's just about gotchas and dunking on people. And I just find that to be exhausting. And the news that SI is going out of business. Well, I don't know if they're going out of business. That might be going too far. But that they're making significant shakeups, like it stinks. Because to me, I hear that and I know exactly what they're going to do and why they're doing it, right? SI probably was not profitable enough for the boardroom executives at the whatever subsidiary owns the subsidiary that owns the subsidiary that owns SI, right? Like whoever owns it, ultimately, they looked at it and said, well, this number is not high enough. So because that number was not high enough, thousands of people are going to lose their job, despite the fact that they put out good work. And those thousands of people are going to lose their job, and they're going to replace those thousands of people with people who are going to do more or less the same kind of garbage that we've been wanting to get away from, right? Where it's like, oh, it's going to be like a dirt sheet, probably. It's going to be just a lot of editorials from people who don't know much and don't even care to research much and just hot take nonsense, right? Like it's just going to be that's what it's going to turn into. It's just another hot take nonsense place, because when you're in the attention marketplace and not the marketplace to actually just talk about these things or have some kind of a balance, that's what's going to happen. We've made everything so much about profit that we don't even care if the product is good anymore. And that's my concern, because eventually people are going to get tired of the product not being good and being so profit driven. Because what's the reason that we have all of these hot take shows? The reason we have all of these hot take shows is simple. It's because it gets people to engage when somebody says something incredibly stupid. And that engagement drives up ad dollars, and those ad dollars drive up profit. And that's why we get the dribble that we have. But at some point, somewhere, some people got to care about the sports talk, care about the dialogue that's being had, care about the quality of it. Like there's just less and less of that. Like when I was a kid, and I don't want to make it seem like this generation stinks at it, and now I used to have real sports talk, because sports talk had its problems when I was young. But when I was a kid, there was also stuff like Outside the Lines that was very prominent, where you got actual journalism in your sports, and you knew that, hey man, they're going to dig up some stories about the team, and this stuff's going to actually matter, and it can result in criminal stuff, or sometimes it's like very serious damnations of whatever organizational structure sports team has put into place. Stories were actually kind of broken. And now we've gotten into the place where everybody's doing, basically what I do, which is the sports commentary space. Is not necessarily about journalism or anything like that. And again, like, I exist in this space, so I think that space is fine. But it doesn't seem like there's really that lane anymore for sports investigative journalism, and fans, if I'm being honest, seem to be directly hostile to any kind of like actual journalism that happens around their favorite team, because anytime that happens, you get those journalists called out as like troublemakers, or they're trying to stir the pot or something like that. And then the coach says something and the players say something, and basically that journalist who's just trying to tell the public what's actually going on gets villainized for that. And it's just a very troubling path I feel like we're going down. I feel like we're going to know less about what's actually happening with these teams, and have less satisfying conversations about that. And that's concerning, but that's also the larger picture. The small picture is, I at least have this platform to be able to try to talk about what I want to talk about, the way that I want to do it, with the care and thought that I want to do it. So while I'm worried about the sports talk landscape in whole, I can only control what I can control, and what I can control is what I put out. So that's just my thoughts, my ramblings on the SI layoffs. I know a lot of you guys grew up with SI, so this might be much sadder to you than it is to me, who by the time I was really old enough to really care about sports articles, I was reading them online. Like, I wasn't necessarily on SI or getting the magazine and then needed that. Like, so it doesn't have that special place in my heart that it has in people who are slightly older than me's heart. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think, especially if you're of the generation of the Sports Illustrated fan. But y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.